I'm about to make myself a second coffee. I just wanted to document this dream. I've had about 6 dreams in the last probably 2 weeks, and it's almost like I'm having the dream from different people's perspectives. Um, and so I wanted to document it because if I'm see when you have dreams where you're dreaming about the same thing over and over and over again, it's happening for one of two reasons. You're either not getting the message, you're not listening to the message, you're not understanding it, you're not receiving the message clearly, you're not getting it. Whatever the message is, you're not getting it. So they're trying to drum it into you so you'll figure it out and get it. Or you're being told to get ready for something, and they're preparing you, building you up for what's coming, and they're needing you to focus and pay attention and do what you have to do to get the job done, whatever the job is that they're getting you to do, that they're preparing you for. So in this dream that I keep having, it's about the Night of the Black Sun musical Rockpocolypse. I have been listening to War of the Worlds a lot because it helps me figure out how I want to do the Night of the Black Sun, which was formerly Van to Black. There were a couple of things that I needed to change in it, like, with the storyline, because I do eventually want to turn it into a horror movie. Um, but first is a Rockpocolypse, and everybody knows that this musical is to raise awareness for human trafficking. And I keep having dreams where this concert is going to be bigger than I think it is. I'm thinking I'm writing a musical where we're going to be performing it, like, say, at Hyde Park, or like quite a big park, which, to be perfectly honest, I would love to be able to see. My goal, my plan is I want to have this all written and performed and perfected by the 1st of October so that we can perform it for the month of Halloween, because it is a zombie apocalypse musical. It is about a zombie apocalypse. So it's perfect to perform it for Halloween. I was thinking either Halloween night, or the weekend before Halloween or whatever, but I definitely want to perform it the month of Halloween, because at my foundation, from the 1st of October to the 31st of October, it's all going to be about Halloween and Hallows Day and, All Hallows Day and all of that. So we're going to have like a whole month Halloween festival. And then the 1st of December to the 31st of December is all about Christmas and Baby New Year, right? Preparing for the new year. So my goal is I need a composer. I need someone, because I have to be the one to write the music and the lyrics, because I'm the only one that can biorhythmically infuse everything. And contrary to popular belief, Elon Musk, biorhythmics has nothing to do with the songs you listen to. It has nothing to do with any of that. You can't just say, listen to this song, because it's biorhythmically infused and it's a song somebody else has written, and because apparently he's made a playlist that's supposed to heal people, and it's driving them nuts. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Biorhythmically infused music it's got nothing to do with the song, the artist, the album, the nothing. It's got nothing to do with any of that. Um, you can't sit and think good thoughts when you come up with songs, and like it's got nothing to do with any of that. I'm a biorhythmic engineer. I know how this works. I know how to individually tune into people's biometric systems all over the world without knowing any of them. So I know what I'm doing because I'm a scientist, and also I'm ordained by God and the Council of Elders. You know, they teach me everything. So I need a composer. I need someone who can take the tunes that I start forming in my head and helping me form the lyrics and everything to put down and on sheet music. Even see, I mean, do they still? Because I'm a writer, so I don't know. I'm not a musician, but do they still write sheet music nowadays? Is that how old I am? That I still think that you'd sit with sheet music and write down notes and musical scores. All I know is that I need someone who can take the tunes and lyrics from my head and help me turn it into something where we can hand the musicians and say, learn this, do your thing, and then help us teach it to the kids. Because at the end of the day, when the concert is performed, it's going to be the kids on stage playing all the musical instruments. The musicians I'll be looking for are going to be the children's like music teachers and mentors. I eventually want to get to a point where, regardless of where these kids are, probably primarily in the country that I'm going to be living in. So, like, if I'm blessed enough to be able to immigrate to Russia, the kids performing the concert will more than likely be Russian and Ukrainian, which would be beautiful because the concert's to raise awareness for human trafficking. And we all know that this war is so that the coalition of Epsteiners can get their hands on the kids. We know this. I've presented the evidence to the King and the ICC. It's obvious. Everybody knows that this war in Russia is to get hands on children. It's why they need to kill off the future so that they can control it, which is what this Pegasus thing is. The disgusting thing about it is that the NHS know, and they're helping the government kill off children. So, this rockpocalypse is about a pandemic that turns people into flesh-eating zombies, and it's to raise awareness for human trafficking. So, in my dream, the dream I keep having, it's from different perspectives. I'll try to kind of like put it as short and succinctly as possible, so I'm not going into detail, because I've had like about 6 or 7 dreams all in a row, and I just had one this morning, which is why I feel compelled to make this video, because I have to find the man that's going to help me take the music and put it into something that we can give my musicians. So in one of the dreams, I was literally a concert goer. I was a man, maybe like in my late 40s or 50s, and I was a bit like a kind of bit like my ex-husband, Chris. He was quite a big man, but he was obviously someone who was into like rock, like your Black Sabbath kind of, the kind of man who like maybe grew up in and around my generation, who grew up where music was actually good. And like Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, he was wearing one of those kind of t-shirts that had a thing on it, and he had like kind of like the men I grew up around when I lived in Birmingham. So if you're British, you're gonna, or you like classic rock music, you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. The guys that were roadies for people like Judas Priest and Black Sabbath and all that, and the guys that went to their concerts and that. Do you know what I mean? That archetypal guy over a certain age who lives for his rock music. He was there in this dream. It was like I was him, and he had a chili bin, or if you're Australian, an esky. what do you call them here? Coolers. In New Zealand, we call them chili bins. He had a chili bin full of beer. He had a wife, and either they could have been like his children or his grandchildren, but they were maybe sort of between 10 and 15ish. There were about three or four of them, and they were walking into this turnstile in like a, like a football arena sort of thing. Um, they were going through a turnstile. He was handing his tickets over, and they were being zapped. Enjoy the show, and he's like they walk in, and they find their spot because there was no seats. They were all sitting. Well, I mean, people may have been filling the seats. I don't know, but this man in my dream, he was looking for a place to sit. His wife was putting down the blankets. They were getting like food out, and he was, he was having a drink, and he was like sitting, looking up at the stage, watching everybody get the stage ready. There was, the on air sign. There was a big red light that said on air, and someone was testing it because it was going green, and then it was going red, and then it was going green, and then it was going red. And then I could hear, this is me putting all the dreams together, by the way, just because if I told you each individual dream, I'd be here for about an hour and a half, and I want another coffee and finish my breakfast. Not to be rude, but I slept through dinner last night because I'm trying to detox, because I think Starmer tried to poison me on Friday night. So I've had to get all the toxins out of my system. Um, so, uh, what was I saying? Yeah, so then I could hear like two, two, one, two, one, two, testing, testing, one, two, one, two, like that. You know how they test the microphones? One, two, one, two, testing, testing, la, 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 like that. Someone was testing all the mics, saying something about grounding the wires. Someone was saying about the wires being grounded, and then before a concert or a symphony, how you hear like the violins tuning up, and then the dong 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 dong, someone playing the bass, like doing sound checks on their musical instruments. Boom, 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 sort of thing. While everyone was like doing sound checks on stage. And then in the dream I had this morning, I'm having a panic attack even while I'm talking about it because the thought of it just fills me with dread. There was a big armchair to my right. I walked out on stage and people started clapping. And then I was like welcoming everybody. I'm starting, as I'm talking and remembering that my chin's starting to go because I'm getting nervous. There was a big armchair to my right. I walked out, everyone was clapping, and like, because it went totally silent. Then I walked out and I was basically thanking everybody for coming, and explaining what the concert was about, and how everyone's support was going to be helping us raise money and awareness, to rescue children from human trafficking. And I was giving off stats, data and all of that sort of thing. And there was this big armchair to my right where the narrator of the story was going to sit. It was a huge armchair. It was a green tartan armchair with a little oak table beside it, that had, like, I think his script, and bottles of water, a glass and bottles of water. And then I was like, let the show begin. I'm starting to panic. And as I said that, the narrator came out, and I know who it was in the dream, but it's probably just wishful thinking. But in the dream, it was King Charles. He he came out and he sat in the chair, and he started, like, he had like a microphone on him, but they had something like a microphone near him as well. And then he just started talking, just like, the Orson Welles. I'm getting goosebumps. Richard Burton sort of, but he toned his poshness down. And he was talking with, I'm getting goosebumps. He was talking with such clarity and perfection, and it's like this, you could tell he'd practiced his lines. He'd gone over it over and over and over again, and he toned his voice down to suit the radio. That's all I can say. And then the music started. The whole scene that I had written, which is on my channel. I was documenting notes and storylines and that, so that because I don't have my computer isn't set up, so I can't just sit and type everything. I have no Wi-Fi or broadband or anything, so I'm having to use my phone to document all my notes and tunes and that sort of thing. And the kids were phenomenal. As soon as he started talking, and he was introducing the first scene where the camp counsellor, she's getting up in the morning, she's turned her TV on in her room, and it's talking about the news and this zombie outbreak, but she's not paying attention because she's got to get ready to have her shower and that, but you hear the news going on in the background. And in the dream, someone's doing the voice of, like an adult, it was an adult woman doing the voice of the newscaster. Now, obviously, the people that were sitting in the concert, they could just lay back and close their eyes, or they could stand and watch perform. But to them, it would have looked like they were back in the 1930s or 40s inside a radio station. What were they called? Not the Archers, that's a comic book. There's a British, I think it's been going for quite a few, the Arthurs, or something to do with Arthurs. Radio stories. Everyone who's Commonwealth will know what I'm talking about, especially if you're like British in New Zealand. But look, just like that, where there were kids there, there was my son there, I was there, and we were all basically coming out to say our line, because like I only have a few lines. I play the role of mum, and so my role in it is very, very small, because this is about the children saving the world. This musical is about a group of kids from this camp who have to flee the apocalypse to save the world. They accidentally save the world. So I'm kind of like at the beginning, and then I'm sort of at the end. My biggest role is probably at the end, and even then it's not even a very big role, because so once the helicopter man and I turn up, my role is, so I would only be coming out when my role was ready. But for people whose characters are like main characters, like my son Thomas's character and the friends that survived the apocalypse, because we start out with about 10 kids, but we're only left with about 4 or 5. We hadn't decided how many we were going to give over to the story, so to speak, the ones who were going to be taken down by the zombies. So there ends up with about four, sort of between 4 and 6 kids. We haven't decided yet. So the people in the audience were watching the kids and the adults who's who were having the speaking roles, and they were standing with their scripts with the olden days microphones, the ones from the 30s and 40s and that they used to use, those really cool ones. They were talking into those, and then when their lines were done or whatever, they'd step back. There was somebody there, or there was actually like a table. There was a group of people who were there for the sound effects. there were kids, and they had like a couple of adults with them who were guiding them and directing them to the sound effects. Some of the sound effects were like digital, because obviously we're not going to be able to recreate the sound of a like a real gun being shot or anything like that in real life. So some of the sound effects were like digital, and some were real. You know, like the old days with the banging of the coconuts together to make the sound of horses trotting, and you know that sort of the shaking of the metal, the sheet metal, and that for the sound of thunder and all that sort of thing. But it was awesome, and the man sitting in the audience was blown away by the music, because it was a mix of you know, modern instruments and classical instruments. So it was like cellos and violins and trumpets and piccolos and oboes, and there's a lot of oboes and all that, and how I hear it in my head, violins, oboes, that sort of thing, but also bass guitar, electric guitar, drums, that sort of thing. And they were all playing together, and this man just looked at his wife and he said, I just got goosebumps. And then he looked over to the boy and he said, do you know they're releasing this on vinyl? And the boy, I'm pretty sure it was his son, he goes, really? And the dad said, yeah. And he said, if they're selling them on the way out, I'm going to get one, because I want to put this musical on vinyl. I mean, we'll put it on Spotify and that, but I want people to enjoy the music of this, just like with Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds on vinyl. I grew up listening to these musicals on vinyl, and there is no sound in the world that can produce music better than vinyl. I want people to go back to buying stereos, you know, where you put the needle on the record, put the needle on the record. Put the needle on the record, put the needle on the record. That's my generation. Put the needle on the record. I'm not going to have any digital crap in my house. If I want to listen to music, I'm going to put an album on. I want to start collecting albums. In fact, in my department store, I want to have a music section where all my musicians will be given the opportunity to put their stuff onto vinyl. And then people will be able to come, you know, the old days, and flick through the albums. We'll have like classic ones that we collect from vintage stores and charity shops and all of that, all the good quality stuff. And then all my artist stuff will be there. But any musicals we produce, you'll be able to buy them on vinyl. And this man was determined to get our album on vinyl. Um, there's a whole thing to do with the album cover and the album sleeves as well, because of War of the Worlds. I want to be, you know, it inspired me so greatly. So I'm also looking for some, like a really talented young artist to help me design the album cover and album sleeve. I was thinking of holding a competition where they'd be given the script, where they'd, you know, be able to sit and they'd have access to the musical before anyone else, and then let them go away and commission them to design the album cover and album sleeve for young artists, like artists under the age of like 18. Um, so I was watching this musical being performed, and in the bit where the helicopter man and I come in to the safe house to get the kids, while my son's doing this battle to kill the antagonist, to kill the bad guy in the movie, it was like, how do I explain it? While I was sitting in the helicopter in the movie, in the musical, I was watching over the place where we were performing the concert, and it was like, I'm going to have a panic attack. Not really, I'm being dramatic, but my heart's pounding because it's just a thought. Everything zoomed out, and it was like all over the world. people were sitting in these parks listening to my musical, which is my dream. I had said that when we performed it, I wanted to beam it out across, the radio waves so that people all over the world could listen to it. But other people in other parks in other countries in the world were being fed like a live feed of the concert. So it was like the concert inside the concert inside the concert inside the concert sort of thing. And because my plan was to perform the concert and then the next year to perform the concert around the world live on stage where everyone performs it at the exact same time. So we go first, and then we invite other countries and their kids and that to get involved, and then they learn it all and rehearse it all, and then there's this big global rehearsal where on this one night we perform it at the exact same time together around the world. I, I know because of biorhythmics, but that's what the dream was. The dream I had this morning, where it was everyone doing it all at once. Everyone was watching it all at once. Everyone was taking part all at once. But in the dream I had a couple of nights ago, it was it was just like Live Aid. Remember, like Live Aid, there were some places where they just put up the big massive TVs. People who couldn't people who can't like go to Russia, if that were where I was to have it, were watching it in Hungary and Canada and Australia, because we'd set up like big stages with big massive screens where people could take their chili bins and their food and that and sit in the park and watch the kids perform this concert. And then the albums were selling. Like I was saying at the end of the dream, I was saying like, because they were saying that the albums sold out already. They've run out of albums. We need to produce more albums, more LPs. And being in a panic, like, oh my God, because like we had orders coming in for these albums and people were prepaying for these albums. And then I was thinking, like, we need more help. We need, that's why I'm panicking. Because it was like, this became bigger than I thought it was. I thought I was just writing a little musical to perform in a park to raise awareness for human trafficking, and it ended up becoming like Live Aid. I just said to my partner, um, I was like the Bob Geldof of human trafficking. I became like the Bob Geldof of human trafficking. And if you know anything about Live Aid, which was my generation, I watched that live, and it was the greatest experience of my life. It left such a huge impact on me. I'm now wanting to do the same thing but for human trafficking, which is one of the reasons why I think Friday happened, and because I'm trying to get him impeached and he's not happy. So, but I'm okay. I am fine. God was there, just like last time. God was right there, and praise the Lord. I'm not even Christian, but I have to praise Him. I praise Him every time. So, poisoned for Putin again. People keep trying to poison me over that, man. I'm going to get a T-shirt. I was poisoned for Putin. Anyway, I think I was. I think I was, but we'll just see. I'm fine now. It was yeah. So anyway, these are the dreams I keep having over and over and over again. I've had like 7 dreams now. 7 dreams in the last about 2.5 weeks, which is why I keep pushing. If there's any musicians out there who want to get involved in this, who can help me get this, I've got the story. I just need to put all the meat and bones on it once I can use my laptop and everything. Because we had to, when I bought my laptop off my son, we had to clear it. But I don't have broadband or anything to be able to upload things like Google Docs. And every time I tried to use hotspot on my phone, I was being charged for it, and I can't afford that sort of thing. So when I can sit and write it all out, I can put the meat and bones on the story, but half of the story is in the songs because there's not a lot of acting. If you know what War of the Worlds is like, there's not a heck of a lot of talking. It's mostly about the music and the narration. So technically, probably whoever does the narration, in my dream it was King Charles, he would have the biggest role. And then, the kids and actors come in. We only need about 6 or 7 adult actors if they are able to do a couple of different voices, and then the rest is just going to be all the kids, because the kids are the heroes. So my son and his friends are the heroes. Even when we were writing it, a couple of my son's friends were going to be involved because they played musical instruments and they wanted to get into acting and things like that, which was going to be cool. It was going to be like a family affair, and then obviously all hell broke loose. So, yeah, but it's not going to stop me. I'm still doing it. I just really wanted to be able to perform this on stage with my baby, my son, because he helped me write it. Even my youngest was starting to add to the story. He came up with a really incredible plot twist that I was able to take in a whole direction. See, the thing is as well, this concert is a no holds barred, and I'm a realist, and I'm one of these people that if there was a real zombie apocalypse, the kids and babies would be affected by it. So in this storyline, children are affected. So you wouldn't be able to come to this if you were sensitive. If you were a Karen, this wouldn't be for you. This would be for people who, because like we're talking about human trafficking and a globally engineered pandemic. So this is hard hitting stuff we're talking about. It's real, it's the truth, but it's been presented in a way that's entertaining, that gets people thinking. I want people to walk away from this and then be aware and participate in protecting the children. Because this whole thing in Russia, this whole pandemic, this Pegasus and that, it's all to get the children. They want to kill off the next generation. They want to sacrifice them for their global powers and the billions that they're stealing in this fake war. And they can say it's because Russia invaded, but it's because Russia was trying to get the children away from the human traffickers. And I think the ICC is starting to realise this now. They're starting to realise that Russian children and Russian Ukrainians have been the victims of a lot of things over the last 70 years that need to be recognised, which they finally are, thank God. So this is a hard hitting musical. Like with Live Aid, we were talking about starvation. We were, as children, shown images of children being circled by vultures waiting for these kids to die. And, we were shown some really horrible things during that Live Aid thing that as children, it was hard to watch, but it was real. Well, human trafficking is no different. It's going to be hard to watch, but it's real. And it's every adult's responsibility to protect the children, whether they're ours or not. And this concert is going to raise awareness where it's going to be like, wake up, everybody. This isn't just about them coming after other people's kids, it's about them coming after yours as well. And once they've gotten everybody else's, then they'll come after yours, sort of thing. So it's going to be hard hitting. Some of the stuff that I've written in there, it's going to be like, whoa, I can't believe they put that in there. But it's the truth because it would happen in real life. You see what I mean? Everything that we put in there would happen in real life. This isn't fantasy. You have to understand human trafficking and occult human sacrifices and that have been my whole career, profession, expertise, experience of understanding, whatever you want to call it, um, for a long time. For a long time. Since my blog days. So almost 13, oh, 30, it'd be 13 years in January, because it was January 2013 when I started my blog. So it'll be 13 years next month. That's how long I've been on this thing to protect children, and started learning about the human trafficking and that because of I started having all the military boys stepping forward. By 2016, 2017, I was deep in it, because then I became a occult physicist, and all the science started coming through, and the quantum magnetics and all of that. So, and then that's of course when I became a target for people like um, Hillary Clinton and all of that. So yeah, I'm the original whistleblower. I'm probably the reason why most of this trouble with human trafficking and Jeffrey Epstein and that is happening now. I was the original whistleblower. So it's hard hitting. So if you bring kids to these concerts, if you let them listen or watch it, it's going to have to be with the understanding that kids are going to die in this musical, because they would in real life and they are in real life. It's just how I've written it isn't going to be. It's thought provoking rather than scary, unless you're like me, in which case you'd take it to heart and you'd feel the need to want to do something. You'd feel hurt by it because you know that it's real. You know that it's real and this could really happen, and it is happening and it does happen, sort of thing. So yeah, so we wouldn't be for the faint-hearted. We'd probably have to perform after about 7 o'clock, but um, this is a dream I keep having. It's like I'm being told, get the crew together, get your musicians together, find a location, get the stage built, get the funding, get the. I would love it if I could be funded by local businesses rather than, um, oh, Elon Musk, I'm gonna pay for this concert. Go to court and answer for your sex trafficking allegations, mate. You tunnel building black anus. Um, I wouldn't accept that. I won't accept sponsorship or anything like that from anyone who is trying to buy favour with God for their sins. I would prefer it if it was like, local supermarket chains and local radio stations and, you know, bakeries and auto body shops and that sort of thing. But I'll leave that up to God. So that's my dream. I need to find musicians. I need to find roadies, and I need to find my partner, my writing partner, my Elton John, Bernie Taupin kind of writing collaborator, who can take. He's going to have to. He's going to have to sit down when I'm like, and I can hear, and then he's going to go, okay, so that's a G and an E and dun, 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 da, 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 with his piano or whatever. Oh, bless him. He's going to have to be patient. I used to be able to read sheet music, but I explained why. Maybe it's something that I will pick up again. I'd love to relearn how to play the guitar. If I could play the guitar enough that I could even play guitar in this concert, I'd be so proud of myself. But I used to be able to play keyboard and guitar, and if I had kept it up, I could have done it all myself and I wouldn't need help. But God works in mysterious ways. So I'm serious. If there's anyone out there who can help me get this tune out of my head for these songs and present it in a way to the musicians that they know what they're doing, because I've had dreams as well, which I documented. I'll leave a link in the description box, where I actually documented where I was in like a jamming session with these musicians. There were young ones, there were old ones, some were drinking, not the kids. It's like we were on a break or we'd finished, and they'd put their musical instruments. Yet there was a guy playing a piano, and they were having like a jamming session while we were waiting for food. And some of them were having like a couple of drinks, and some of them were smoking. I don't know if it was weed or cigarettes, but there were people outside smoking because we were in like this. My dream, my goal is wherever it is that I immigrate to. When I buy my homestead, I want to have like a summer house at the back that is my recording studio, where I can go with my musicians and writers and that, without disturbing the kids and making noise. And it had like a kitchen and an upstairs, and fold out couches and things like that. And we may have been in there, but I'm not sure. But there were a few of us, and there was like a jamming session, and it was like we were fine tuning the musical, getting it down before we took it to the kids, I think. Though there were definitely teenagers in that room playing musical instruments. So, yeah, I had to put it out there because I think this is the next step for me, is putting on this concert, the Bob Geldof of human trafficking. So, and I think it would be poignant to get the King involved, considering um, the shit that his family have taken for the blackmailing of Prince Andrew. I still find it interesting how he's the only person he was thrown under the bus. Hey, he's the only one they've gone after of all the millions, well, not millions, of all the dozens of people that are on that list, the hundreds of people that are on that list. It's only him, because they want to tear the monarchy down. They haven't gone after Naomi Campbell or Richard Branson or anyone else, Elon Musk, Donald Trump. I mean, they're trying to go after him, but they're not going after him like they are Andrew. And I'm glad they dropped. I'm glad the Met Police. People saying, "Oh, it's disgusting," blah blah blah. He was blackmailed by a consenting person who was grooming other victims. So I'm fully in support of it. He was brutalised and victimised and blackmailed, um, by someone who was a willing participant, as well as someone who, a consenting participant who was actively grooming other girls. But Naomi Campbell was too. A lot of these models were, Trump's wife apparently was as well, grooming. So if you're going to blame one person, you got to blame them all. If you're going to hold one person's feet to the fire, you got to hold all their feet to the fire. But they're targeting him because they want to tear the monarchy down. So I'm glad they dropped the charges. Um, I'm a little bit defensive of him. This is in no way, shape, or form blaming his victim for any of this, or the. I'm not blaming her at all, because I know how they use mind control, and it has been noted and documented many times that they used mind control on the girls. I think she even mentioned about the mind control. They're not in control of what they do and what they say, which is why it's called grooming. So it's not her at all, but there are some people who got involved who were brought into it solely for the purpose of being blackmailed. And the royal family have taken the biggest hit out of all of this, because the plan has always been, since they brought Blair and Trump and Epstein and Maxwell's, Robert Maxwell and that into it, the plan was always to get the monarchy. If they can get the monarchy, then Israel can control Great Britain. And this has nothing to do with Jews. This is nothing to do with Jews. There's I've got a little bit of a love of a little soft spot for Hasidic Jews, like the yeah. and Amish people as well. So, and Quakers and that, like a little soft spot. Everyone has everything. There's good and bad in every religion. There's good and bad in every faith, and there's so many lovely things that I love about the way that Jewish people celebrate family and community and their love of God, and that warms my heart. And it's the same thing with Islam, and it's the same thing with Christianity and all of that. Um, they do things that I have a lot of love and respect for. And after I've finally figured out how to read the Quran, I want to get the Torah. I tried to get a Torah that was English translation, but the ones that I found were just too expensive for me. So I just thought at a later date. So yeah, I've got my Bible, I've got my Quran here, and then yeah, I'll get me a Torah, and then I'll learn that and maybe find some people who can teach it to me. I think I'm definitely going to have to get someone to help me with the Quran because it's confusing. I keep trying to read it like the Bible, but it seems to be more like a philosophy. I'm reading it like Marcus Aurelius's um, Meditations, which is I say is my second Bible. So yeah, when it's time, I'll get someone to help teach me. So this has nothing to do with religion and everything to do with the way you treat humanity. And I'm going to have Jewish kids there. I'll have Jewish musicians there. I'll have um, Muslim kids. I'll have Christian kids. I'll have atheist kids. I'll have kids that think they're devil worshippers. We'll all be there. We're all working together. This has nothing to do with religion and politics and everything to do with saving children. And the only people that have a problem with what I'm doing are the ones who don't want me saving children, like Starmer and the coalition of the Epsteiners. So anyone who targets me, like my ex-husbands and their cult, they don't want me saving children. There's more in it for them with children suffering, which is why my ex-husband and that's why they targeted my sons to remove my sons from me, because and to abuse my sons and hurt my sons and that, because they knew that my sons and I are the power of three. And if you know anything about the occult, you'll know about the power of three, the power of three bloodline, and they couldn't have that because they are my inspirers and my business partners and my co-creators, and so they had to remove my sons from the picture, thinking that without them I would stop creating. And if because they're actively, openly hurting my children, and I've been saying that from day one, the way that they've gotten into their heads and everything, for the sole purpose of, if they hurt me, I'll stop planting seeds, because the reason would be removed. However, it just made me more determined to keep planting seeds so that I can get my children away from it and finally rescue them from our abusers. Because you've got to remember, my ex-husband has help doing this. He's got a lot of people in a lot of high places that are shutting things down around me to stop me rescuing my children, because the one thing they don't want is the power of three. Because we're like the Power Rangers ring. My two sons and I lock in, we create the kind of magic that's so powerful. If it was a beam of light, it would decalcify the whole planet, which is why the Vanta Black thing. That's why when my son and I were starting to finalise the Vanta Black thing, because like I said, I wanted to perform this all over the world. It will decalcify the minds of a lot of people who were blinded to the truth of human trafficking and how they do it and how they've been getting away with it. So just like Live Aid. Remember, they had reporters going around and, around the villages and stuff like that. We'll be doing the exact same thing. So the whole concert will probably go for about maybe 4 or 5 hours. The concert itself will probably be about an hour and a half, but by the time we get news articles up and, little snippets of documentary to highlight the awareness of just how bad and deep this thing goes, um, yeah, it'll probably be about 4 hours long. All I know is that man with the t-shirt on, with the rock t-shirt on, when he walked away, he was blown away by it. He was touched, he was moved, he was inspired, he loved the music. It was the music. Because the way it's written in my head, it even gives me goosebumps. Because even though I'm like, in my videos, I'm like, and then the guy goes blah blah blah, and then the so and so walks in and he says sort of thing. When when that's actually put together with the instruments, and it's all strung together in a coherent musical, um, the composition of it, I think, is going to be quite. It's going to give people like chills. So yeah, so I had to document it. So if there are musicians out there and anyone who can read sheet music or help me get this down onto paper so we can hand it to our musicians to then learn it and teach the kids, email me. I will speak to you later. I'm going to go and have my coffee. I just had to document it because that's what's next. I just need to find the country that I'm going to put it in, and I'm hoping it's Russia. I really, really, really want to. When I leave the United Kingdom, I really want to emigrate to Russia. I mean, I have been poisoned for the bloody bugger 3 times now. If that doesn't warrant a friggin' visa, I don't know what will. 3 times poisoned for Putin. I swear I'm going to get a t-shirt. I was poisoned for Putin. Except this time, I was also poisoned for King Charles. Because I'm pretty sure it was to do with me calling for the impeachment of Starmer. So anyway, I'll speak to you later. Ka kite. Ah, no. Do, 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 do.